Welcome to the CPACE Podcast, produced by the University of Pittsburgh's Computational Pathology and AI Center of Excellence. I'm your host, Jordan Gospore, a science reporter covering the integration of artificial intelligence into pathology and laboratory medicine. In this series, we'll explore how AI advancements and pioneering research in digital pathology are not only shaping the future of healthcare and diagnostic excellence, but also fostering new opportunities for collaboration, linking researchers, clinicians, and healthcare companies. Today, we're going to speak with Dr. Pantanowitz, a professor of pathology at the University of Pittsburgh and chair of the Department of Pathology at UPMC, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Dr. Pantanowitz has been actively involved in launching the University of Pittsburgh's Computational Pathology and AI Center of Excellence, and it's a pleasure for me to join you in launching the CPACE Podcast as our first guest. To get us started, Dr. Pantanowitz, would you like to introduce yourself? And as a science reporter, could I ask you, what's CPACE? And tell us what inspired the Department of Pathology at the University of Pittsburgh to launch the center.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Thanks for inviting me to participate. I'm Liron Pantanowitz. I'm a practicing pathologist, but yes, I'm also a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and I chair the Department of Pathology here at Pitt UPMC. When I joined the department, I inherited a department that had all the traditional pathology divisions: anatomical pathology, clinical pathology, experimental pathology. And we're a notable department, well known, excellent reputation out there. But what any contemporary pathology department needs is to utilize all the data they've generated, especially in a digital format, and capitalize and leverage that to practice pathology in a way that we haven't been able to do before, because we have computers that can process that data. We have algorithms that can be developed to analyze and manipulate and make predictions from that data. And really, that's the field of computational pathology, with the application of artificial intelligence. And so I felt it was important to create a division of computational pathology within our department, which we now have. We have an executive vice chair who oversees that. And every division will benefit from that. Anatomical pathology that looks at tissues, for example, and cells. Clinical pathology that looks at lab data in text and tabular form and so forth, all can benefit from computational pathology. Now, within that computational pathology division, we felt it was necessary to have a center, which we called the Computational Pathology and AI Center of Excellence. And so that's how it got established. And we're up and running, and it's been pretty successful so far.
So with the center up and running, could you share for our listeners your vision for CPACE?
Yeah, let me share with you the vision of this Computational Pathology and AI Center of Excellence. There are three missions I would like to accomplish with this AI center in the Department of Pathology that will benefit the whole institution and Pitt. Number one is academics. There's a lot of artificial intelligence being generated, and people are trying to figure out how best to use it. And so what I would like to do is take an academic look at the best way to establish AI. What are the ethics around that we need to take into consideration, including governance of data? I'd like people to invest their careers in AI applied to pathology. There's a lot of discovery that can be done. We are hiring PhDs. I'd like them to graduate, become well-funded researchers. We're hired faculty. And so my hope is that everyone will participate in AI, develop AI, teach us how to validate that AI, teach us how to deploy it in our clinical environment and our research environment. And so that's mission number one, is approach the application of AI to the field of pathology from an academic perspective. Number two, the second mission is we have a lot of problems to solve. A lot of problems on the clinical side at UPMC and also on the Pitt side. People are complaining there's no time, there's no workforce. How do I write all these grants? How do I write all these letters of reference? How do I get my workload done? How do I distribute the workload, etc.? And so the other challenge that I've asked our CPACE team is to help solve these problems that we encounter every day, some common and some very challenging. And I don't think we can rely on AI startup companies or even big vendors in the market space to solve all of these problems for us, especially if we want them very customized for our environment. So number two is for CPACE to solve problems for us that we encounter. And then the third mission is when doing 1 and 2, which is getting involved in the academics of computational pathology and solving problems using the technology. if we generate intellectual property, we should commercialize that. And so the third mission is to foster academic industry partnerships, whether we validate technology and do clinical trials for folks, whether we co-develop products and share the intellectual property, or whether we develop something ourselves and have AI spin-off companies. So that's our third mission. And as I mentioned, we're well on our way to tackling all three already.
You spoke about CPACE helping to develop commercial and niche clinical applications through academic industry partnerships. Coincidentally, on this podcast, we plan to incorporate 2 special questions into our interviews for all of our guests, one from a student and one from a potential industry partner. Since you brought up commercial applications, let me jump to our first question, which is from Tanner Thomas at Brown University. They're concentrating in biology, and they're looking forward to studying medicine at the University of Pittsburgh. Our student asks, given your extensive background in entrepreneurship, including in industry-sponsored research, how can CPACE support students who are looking to advance their entrepreneurial careers in the medical technology field?
Yeah, what a great question. So the Department of Pathology here at Pitt, as well as the CPACE Center, are all about academic industry partnership. And for students who want to participate, there's a lot of benefit. We will have sponsored research agreements in place so people can benefit from using novel technology for projects. And obviously, there's a gain for that in terms of publications, presentations, and buffing up one CV. Number 2 is there's intellectual property that can be generated. Here's an opportunity to get your name on a patent and license your technology. Number 3 is you get access to see what happens on the industry side. So we will give you the opportunity to see how entrepreneurial activity unfolds. Obviously, there are some mundane things. You have to manage conflict of interest. You have to disclose. There's NDAs, etc., and you'll learn, how to navigate that. And then finally is this creates opportunities for employment. So some students would like a bridge opportunity and may not want to go to academia, but may actually want to go into industry. And so here's an opportunity that should particular industry partner work out well, they could move over into industry because we will have facilitated that transition for employment. So I think there's a lot of benefit for students to participate in industry-sponsored research.
Thank you so much for your advice to students. As a quick follow-up question, our student asks, what qualities and interests would make students particularly well-suited to thrive in the emerging computational environment?
If you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd say you need good technical skills. You need to know how to, program in C++, and you need to know how to use MATLAB, etc. But I think that's changed with the tools today. There are certainly enthusiasts who are interested in AI and the hype, but then there are true folks who really want to practice in the field. And while you may not need all the technical skills that you had to many years ago, because we have tools like, GPT equivalents that can do the computer programming and coding and write you scripts, etc. You do need an interest in the field, and you need to dedicate some time to learning how to use those tools. It's kind of like getting into a Ferrari. You need to know how to handle that Ferrari and put it to good use. So I think that's what students need to do. So at some point, you will cross the line from being just an enthusiast to actually being in the front seat and navigating and managing to drive that Ferrari, because you could take it anywhere. And so that's one of the missions of CPACE, is an educational component. And we are all about teaching all types of learners, not just med students. So we are helping at Pitt formulate an AI curriculum to teach medical students about AI. And we are also going all the way back to high school students and participating in STEM to teach high school students about AI. Hopefully they'll pick that pathway career choice, but if not, at least they will still understand some of the issues around AI, like ethics and so on.
I really love that CPACE is including tailoring programs for high school students. It's interesting. In preparing for this interview, I read that the University of Pittsburgh School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences is offering high school students an opportunity this summer to learn about AI-powered medical imaging informatics. It's really admirable to see the university doing so much to introduce young people to AI and bringing these types of sophisticated learning opportunities down to the high school level. Before I ask you our question from industry, which is a fairly technical question, I'd like to return to CPACE and ask for your views on the pursuit of excellence. What does the pursuit of excellence mean to you, personally and professionally, from digital and computational perspectives?
So the pursuit of excellence is bringing together the right people and the right technology to create that synergy. I don't think you can do either on its own, at least well. And so that's what I would like to do, bring the right people with the right energy and give them the right tools. And then synergistically, we can create what I really think is a little bit of magic, which for me in the field of medicine is a little bit of the art and the science, if we can bring that together. And we are bringing physicians and allied healthcare professionals and students new tools. If someone wanted to join our Center of Excellence 20 years ago, I would teach them how to use a microscope and focus. And, today I'm just giving them new tools in which to learn to treat patients and better manage them and make predictions so that the families understand what the prognosis is, or if they will or will not respond to certain drugs. And, we can help do that, especially if people cannot afford it. Third world countries, people cannot afford expensive molecular testing, but maybe they could click a button and that could make a prediction as a surrogate. And I used to do a lot of my experimental research looking through a microscope and doing observations. But today, I'm still doing experimental pathology research and observations, but just using pixels. And there's so many pixels today that I can't quantify and look at spatial relations on my own. I'm just not that smart. So I do need the help of computational pathology to do that. And that's kind of what I want to do, is bring the technology and the people together to create that kind of excellence. Excellence so that we can do things, what I say, better, quicker, and cheaper. And I think we can do that. And so if we can create a center that fosters that and teaches people how to do that and provides examples and use cases, and something that we don't, while I'm ecstatic that we're doing this all in Pittsburgh at the University of Pittsburgh, I really am hoping that this can be disseminated and be used by many people around the globe, especially those that do not have access to technology easily.
Thank you for sharing your views on excellence and on your plans for CPACE. So returning to our industry question, which is from Iban Tamilinson from Labit, a next-generation, all-in-one laboratory informatics platform. We'd like to ask you about AI, data reuse, and complex laboratory workflows. Prefacing the question, clinical laboratories capture on a daily basis the most rigorously quantified and high-quality data available. But then, to a certain extent, the data is made less usable after entering typical informatics systems available today. This is because data enters a normalized data model enforced by the informatics systems which utilize relational databases, which themselves lack rigorous metadata structure. Iban from Labit asks, to what extent is digital pathology impacted on an industry-wide level by different data models imposed by clinical laboratories?
That's a wonderful and indeed a technical question that poses a challenge to AI development and AI use. Data is the new liquid gold, and so yes, you do need data to generate AI algorithms. And you're absolutely right that a lot of the data we generate, number one, is locked in silos and not well integrated. Let's take digital pathology. You can scan all your digital images and put them on a server, but if they're not linked to the metadata, they're not all that valuable. And the metadata may be, who is this patient? What age are they? What disease do they have? How did they respond to therapy? What was their survival? All of that makes the image much more valuable. And so the challenge is, how do you break down those silos? How do you take that data and attach it to the metadata, which includes outcomes? So a large part of the CPACE effort that we have isn't just taking the data and building algorithms. It's actually taking data in what we call the crude oil form, which we have on our servers here, and taking that and refining it into making, really nice, clean petroleum that we know will, run this particular engine. So that's part of our process, and that's what we're using the technology to do, is how best to actually turn that crude oil into refined, petroleum, take that data so that we can use it to build algorithms reliably, ethically, and make it generalizable. One thing we have realized is that data in one form, while it's very valuable, is often better when you combine it with other forms of data. So we're also looking at multimodal data, not just digital images, but there's also molecular data and all other types of omics data, which we want to build models that address, that multimodal algorithms. But we also realized that there are so many challenges to working with data in a healthcare system as opposed to just a university side, which is getting access to that data through IRBs, privacy concerns, the risk of data leakage, and so forth. So one of the models that we're addressing in CPACE is to create synthetic data. We are fortunate that Dr. Hooman Rashidi in our group is an expert at creating synthetic data. And so we are full force working on creating synthetic data, which addresses many of these barriers, but it also creates opportunities for us. So if there's a rare disease that we would like to build an algorithm, if we rely just on real world data, it would take us an eternity to collect enough data to generate an algorithm that would perform, with decent accuracy. But if we augment that with synthetic data, we would have many, many of such rare cases. And so now we would have an algorithm that could be built and be practical and perform well. So that's how we are addressing it. The other thing to add is, unfortunately, I wish I knew this 10 years ago. In pathology, when we were digitizing a lot of our slides and saving data, we didn't follow any standard file format to save because we never had a standard. Each vendor gave us proprietary software with proprietary file formats and proprietary viewers and other software to work with. And now when we want to go back and access those large databases, either we convert them to something like DICOM, which is a more universal file format and better for archiving, or we just don't have access to that data. So, I'm a strong believer when it comes to AI. The GIGO principle applies: garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't have good quality data, not just quantity of data, but it's also the quality of the data, you're not going to land up with a good outcome. So at CPACE, we realize that. So a large amount of our work is focused on data collection and refining that data so that we can use it downstream.
That's a great answer, and it's interesting that you brought up synthetic data and data quality. These are obviously important subjects and subjects of growing interest to researchers and healthcare companies alike. Could you elaborate for us on CPACE's interests in data and with an emphasis on synthetic data? And maybe give us a pitch on the types of opportunities that CPACE is working on developing tailored towards industry that are connected to synthetic data and AI.
Yeah, so our Center of Computational Pathology and AI is not only focused on digital data, but we are focused on text, tabular, and image data. So that gives us a competitive advantage over many other folks that are working in the space. Many of them are confined to digital pathology. We're looking at all types of digitized data. Now, I'd mentioned earlier that I wish I had perfect data sets and large enough data sets to do everything, but we just do not. So that is why we are also focused on creating synthetic data biobanks. With these biobanks, which itself is a large project and definitely an exciting project, we realize that the field of AI in general is going to rely more and more on synthetic data as we go forward. And there's obviously controversy around that. Is synthetic data better than real world data? That's questionable. Can you use synthetic data to train AI? We do know that it works and it does improve performance. The things we're looking to do with synthetic data are create biobanks so that we can build many algorithms and improve their performance. But one of the questions we've had, and at UPMC, we have several AI algorithms running every day in clinical practice. But there isn't a good method in terms of doing proficiency testing to validate that they're working well. For now, I have humans overseeing those AI algorithms in clinical practice. And, we're talking MD versus AI or PhD versus AI. And so we're relying on the humans to say, oh, I don't trust AI in this particular case. But is that the right way of doing it? Maybe it's better to have AI checking AI. But how does one, check the proficiency of an algorithm going forward? It's very difficult if I have multiple AI algorithms running to create data sets, especially from real world data, just to validate the proficiency of these algorithms. So we're going to be using our biobanks to test the proficiency of AI algorithms running in clinical practice. And hopefully this will be a model that many other healthcare systems will adopt, and maybe other industries will adopt, that someone's got to be the checker of the AI. And so that's what we're, hoping to achieve. We're doing those tests now as a proof of concept, and we're hoping that it will pan out.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of researchers and companies will be following developments coming out of CPACE connected with synthetic data and the advancement of computational pathology and AI. And I'm excited about being involved.
Wonderful. So if you're interested in CPACE, reach out to any of the team members. You're welcome to come join us, find out more, and come and join us as we explore the world of AI applied to pathology.
Dr. Pantanowitz, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the CPACE podcast. From the University of Pittsburgh, thanks everyone for tuning in and for following this series. Join us again soon to hear how AI is not only shaping the future of healthcare and diagnostic excellence, but also fostering new opportunities for collaboration linking researchers, clinicians, and healthcare companies.